What's going on, everybody? Big Dawg Brett. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Glad you guys are here today. We're going to be going over the 2020 Bama returning players. Are they still elite? Who do they have left? What's it going to look like? So let's go ahead and get into that. Going to keep this kind of quick. Let's see if we can keep it under, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Oh, before we get started, if you've seen any of my other videos and you like those, go ahead and like this video too. Don't forget to share. It's really important. You can also subscribe to the channel, and there's a little bell. Click that bell, and you'll never miss any of my new videos when they come out. So, all right, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so as usual, Alabama loses a ton of players. They end up going to the NFL. So let's talk about those guys real quick. From what I could find, of course, Tua Tagovailoa got drafted first-round pick over to Miami. Another first-round pick in Jedrick Willis, Cleveland Browns. Henry Ruggs goes to the Raiders first round. Jerry Jeudy goes to the Denver Broncos first round. Xavier McKinney goes to the New York Giants second round. Trayvon Diggs goes to Dallas Cowboys second round. Raekwon Davis goes to the Miami Dolphins in the second round. Terrell Lewis goes in the third to the Los Angeles Rams. And Anthony Jennings goes to the New England Patriots in round 3 as well. A little bit later, like round 43 or something, Jared Maiden, a safety, he goes to San Francisco, and the other safety, Shaheem Carter, he also got drafted and went to the Jets. So that's like 12 guys that go to the NFL. That's a lot of talent to lose. They lost them in some key places. But I'm going to tell you why that shouldn't hurt them too bad. The biggest loss here is probably the loss of the Tua Tagovailoa, Jerry Jeudy, and Ruggs, in my opinion. Lost basically one guy on the defensive line, one guy on the offensive line, a couple of DBs, and a couple of linebackers, and a couple of safeties. But they are loaded at the safety position, or excuse me, at the linebacker position, and they have Najee Harris coming back. Mac Jones has shown some elite skill here and there, but really the winners as far as the best guys coming back are going to have to be Najee Harris as well as Devontae Smith. Jalen Waddle's coming back, and Miller Forrestall. If I get these guys' names wrong, sorry, I don't make these names. I just have to deal with them, so you guys have to deal with them too. And if I say something like Mater D when it's obviously not the name of the school, you got to take some of that as a bit of sarcasm. But anyway, so let's get into this. All right, real quick, because I am not a walking encyclopedia, but I do the best I can. I do have to keep some of these notes. Notes matter. Yep, they're important. So even though they lost 12 guys, let's talk about what they did end up keeping and who's coming back. So who's coming up here? They're going to have Mac Jones. Mac Jones, you know, if I told you last year, if I told you that Mac Jones had over 1,500 passing yards, that might surprise you. What should really surprise you is that his QBR was 186. I mean, it's really good. He's got 14 touchdowns. Tua's longest pass, 85 yards. Mac Jones' longest pass, 85 yards. Completion attempts, 80. Completion attempts for Jones, 97. I mean, these guys, completion at 71% for Tua, 68% for Mac Jones. Wow. Great backup quarterback. Alabama's obviously doing a good job of training these guys up. I mean, Mac Jones looks like he's going to be a really good fit. I know there's another quarterback coming in. I'm not talking about that guy right now. We'll talk about him later. But this looks to be really, really good for Mac Jones. These kind of numbers, he's got a cohesion with the team. He's a junior this year. He's played in some big games. He's played against Auburn. Yes, they lost that game, but it was 48-45. If you put 45 points on the board, it wasn't the offense that lost that game. Put up 66 points against WCU. Even if you're playing a nobody school, hanging 66 points is pretty impressive. 48 points against Arkansas. Yeah, I get it. It's Arkansas, but still, it's 48 points. And they hung 35 points on the number 14 ranked Michigan in a bowl game. So, the guy's definitely got some talent. It's really, I think, kind of his job to lose. But wow, so far, the roster is looking pretty impressive. Najee Harris coming back as a rusher. I mean, this guy has more accolades than you can shake a stick at. He's going to come back another year. Last year, I think he had, 1,200 yards rushing, average 6 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns. By far, probably the biggest rushing weapon on that they had. I mean, when you can hang 13 touchdowns, that's pretty impressive. The next guy in line is Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson with 96 attempts, 444 yards. He had about half of the carries, but about a third of the yards. 37 was his long, only 5 touchdowns. Getting Killian Robinson back, 39 attempts, 254 yards. This guy could be somebody. He's averaging 6.5 a carry, and he had a breakaway for like 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to start to kind of fight for that secondary role between Brian and Killian. That's where he's really going to be at as far as the running back position goes. But, I mean, there's a lot of talent on that rushing offense. They have a lot of they really move the ball around a lot. Sometimes they'll run the ball with a wide receiver. Sometimes they'll run the ball with a tight end. It really just kind of depends. If we jump over to the receiving team, if we're looking at the receiving core, Devontae Smith, believe it or not, this guy was the number one guy. Everybody says Jerry Jeudy. Everybody says Henry Ruggs. Everybody says Jalen Waddle. But Devontae Smith was really the number one receiver. He averaged 18.5 yards per carry, had 14 touchdowns, and over 1,200 yards in receiving. That's incredible. I can't name the last time that UGA had a 1,000+ yard receiver. Never mind the fact that they had 2 of them. They had Jerry Jeudy and Devonta Smith. I keep calling him Devontae because there's a player in UGA. His name is Devontae. I keep wanting to say Devontae. I know it's Devonta. Again, bear with me. It'll be okay. 14 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy's gone. Henry Ruggs is gone. And then so you go from the number 2 spot, number 3 receiver's gone. That drops you down to Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. 33 receptions. You can bet that he's going to be splitting these with Devonta Smith. It's going to be him helping pick up that lion's share. And guess who the number 5 receiver guy is? Ready? The all-star running back, Najee Harris. Najee Harris had 27 receptions for 300 yards, which was better than most of the rest of the team. And there was two or three wide receivers that he had better numbers than as far as receiving. Najee Harris has incredible hands, incredible football knowledge, very powerful runner, very agile. Not necessarily the fastest guy on the field, but man, this guy could absolutely find a seam, rip it apart, go down the field, slam guys to the turf, hurdle another guy, diving for a touchdown on some of the quickest screen passes Tua's ever thrown. Absolutely talented. Most teams, if you lost receivers like Henry and Ruggs, you'd be in trouble. But Alabama's going to be doing just fine. They've got plenty of guys to still throw to. The kicker, I don't think we need to talk about the kickers for Alabama. You guys know what the pain is for those. Those guys kick field goals about as well as Dr. Fauci throws strikes. So, moving right along. Defense, pretty much, geez, guys. The defense is going to be just as good as it was last year. Alabama had some really, really good games where they really shut defense down. There were only like 2 games last year where they even struggled at all as far as the scoring went. So when you're looking at Alabama last year, a couple of games do jump out at you where the team struggled. The LSU game, which I don't fault them for, because any game against LSU, anybody who played LSU late in the season struggled to score. I think the amount of points that they were able to put up was pretty fair considering how strong of a team that is. But it was really one of those moments where you saw that the defense had some cracks in the armor. Now, the game that really it seemed like things kind of got away from them, kind of got out of hand, was during the Auburn game. Pretty unusual to see Alabama lose this game, especially here recently. I don't know what happened, but the game prior to that, which was Western Carolina, they allowed 3 points. The game before that was against Mississippi State. They allowed 7 points. They played LSU, who was ranked number 2. They scored 46 points. Before that, the Arkansas game, they only allowed 7 points. So if you take LSU off the board and you take Auburn off the board, they allowed a touchdown or less in 3 of those games. They only allowed Duke to score 3. New Mexico State scored 10. South Mississippi scored 7. Tennessee scored 13. And it was just in like those 2 games that they really had any problems. LSU was starting to really come into their own early in November. That's why you saw that number pop up. They looked like they got it repaired when they played against Mississippi State. The offense looked to be firing on all cylinders against West Carolina. They get out there, they play Auburn, and Auburn just starts rolling. And it never seemed like Alabama was really able to get a hold of that team and kind of pin them down like they like to do. That game just got a little bit away from them. Even though Jones threw for over 335 yards in that game, there was just something missing on the offense. But the defense, when they played Michigan, looked really good again, looked like themselves again. They kept Michigan to 16 points. Again, Jones threw for over 300 yards. I mean, it just looked like Alabama again. So I don't know what that's going to look like coming up in the season opener, depending on who they play. Maybe Georgia, maybe somebody else. We don't know yet. We'll see what happens. So that having been said, if you look over at I want to talk about the tight end Miller Forrestall. This guy had 15 receptions, 167 yards, and he averages 11.1 and has 4 touchdowns. It's a tight end that they like to use, especially in those close situations. The guy's a powerhouse. It's going to be really interesting to see what he does this year coming back. Now, I do want to talk about the defense just a little bit. The defense, even though they lost linebackers, they lost 2 linebackers. But guess what? The 2 linebackers they have coming back are really high-powered guys. You've got Shane Lee, a linebacker with 47 solo tackles, 39 assists, 86 TOTs, 4.5 sacks. Okay. This guy is going to be looking to fill that role that we saw with Trayvon Diggs, that we saw with Anthony Jennings. Anthony Jennings, unless I'm mistaken, was the sack leader. I think he had like 8 or 9 sacks last year, which is incredible. Tons and tons of accolades for him. But back to Shane Lee. Shane Lee is going to be the guy they're going to be looking to fill that role. The linebacker Christian Harris also going to be back. 29 solo tackles, 34 assists, 63 TOTs. No sacks though, but still a guy who's going to be able to fill that role. Alabama always seems to they don't rebuild, they just reload. There is far worse teams out there if there's teams out there that if they were to lose 10 or 12 guys or even 3 or 4 guys to the NFL, they would be incredibly devastated. But it doesn't seem to be the case at Alabama again this year. Alabama's going to be just fine. So looking at the final guy here I want to kind of bring up, which is the defensive back, Patrick Surtain, or Certain. Not sure how you say his name. Again, I don't name these people. Solo tackles, 32, 10 assists, 42 TOTs. When you see these players with tons of solo tackles and almost as many assists, that's showing high football IQ. That's showing these guys getting to the ball, working hard, working together, and getting a goal accomplished. So real quick, with the season opener coming up, looks like they may play USC, maybe not. We don't know. Everything's kind of up in the air. We'll see what happens. I really think that Alabama is in a good position this year. I know this is kind of a weird year for college football, but I don't think there's any way that Alabama's going to take some huge step back. Obviously, losing the players that they lost is going to be detrimental. It would be detrimental to any team. But this isn't really anything new for Alabama. I don't expect those guys to suffer a whole lot. I think it'll take a couple of weeks to get the kinks straightened out. Vast majority of their defense comes back. A lot of players on offense coming back. They still have a kicking problem. I don't know what they're going to do about that. But for the most part, Alabama's Alabama. They're going to be just fine. So I look forward to seeing those guys. Hopefully we catch them early in the season before they get things figured out. Get that win. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, that's my take on it. So hats off to Alabama. You guys have a great team coming in. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you've been here to this long, please leave a comment down below what you think how Alabama's going to do this year. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share. And don't forget to hit that bell. Love to see you guys back soon. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.